everyone. My name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And I'm thrilled to be here with you once again to discuss one of my absolute most anticipated releases of the year. This is probably in contention for my favorite release of the year. I know the year is early, but this is a banger. This is the latest installment of the Columbia Classics 4K Ultra HD set. This is volume 4. For those not in the know, Sony has been releasing these sets the past several years on a yearly basis, and I got a little bit nervous last year because there was not a new one released in the fall like there had been the past couple sets. So up until we got to the end of the year, and they finally announced this for a February release in this year to coincide with the 100th anniversary of Columbia Pictures. I finally could breathe a sigh of relief, and the wait was definitely worth it. There are 6 classic films in this, including His Girl Friday, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Kramer vs. Kramer, Starman, Sleepless in Seattle, and Punch Drunk Love. And I'm going to dig into each of these in a little bit more detail in just a second, but first, I'm going to give you a little bit of an unboxing. The 4th volume of the Columbia Classics 4K Ultra HD collection mimics the first 3 volumes, where it has a removable back J card, book, it just opens up like this. And I guess we'll go in release order. So we'll start with His Girl Friday. Previously released by the Criterion Collection on Blu-ray. Dolby Vision. I believe all these have Dolby Vision. This one does not have Dolby Atmos audio. Every single one of these little spindles are not the best, so look out for loose disc. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. This previously got a release from Twilight Time. It's long out of print. See, this does have Dolby Atmos in addition to the Dolby Vision. Here's some floating disc on this one too. Guess I'll be careful. Great, 4K disc is loose. Not a big fan of these cases. Starman's a bit of a unique one, as you'll see in a second, because it actually includes the TV series in HD on 4K disc. So there are HD quality episodes on 4K discs, so they can cram a lot more on these 4K discs. So you can get all, I believe, 22 episodes of the series on 2 4K discs. So you can see that over here, it's a complete series. And this makes me nervous because these are stacked on top of each other, and 4K discs scratch fairly easily, so I wish they had like a gatefold, but they do not. And this actually comes shipped with this disc on top of the Blu-ray, the 4K disc, but to try to save myself some grief later, I put the 4K disc on the bottom, so hopefully it won't get as scratched over the years. Oops. Got the episode guide. Sleepless in Seattle. It's pretty good. Special features. And finally, Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. And despite Paul Thomas Anderson not apparently embracing Dolby Atmos or Dolby Vision in the past, they are both on this one. So those are all of the movies. Now comes the book, which in previous releases has housed a bonus disc, but that is not the case this time. The bonus discs are the Starman disc, which I've already shown off, but this is a fantastic book. It's always one of the best features, or best parts of this set. So many great essays, restoration notes, so you can get to know exactly the process of all these. You get some insights into why certain films were chosen, besides them just being classics. But yeah, this is a fantastic read. Fourth volume of the Columbia Classics 4K Ultra HD collection. This fourth installment of the Columbia Classics set proved to be, for me, a mixture of beloved titles that I've been eagerly anticipating the jump to 4K, and some titles that I, of course, knew about from their legacy, but I had not been able to check out yet, and I thought that 4K would be the perfect first viewing for some of these. And I am going to give a broad overview of these. I'm going to do a more granular review for geekvibesnation.com shortly after this video posts within the coming days. So if you want a more micro breakdown of every single special feature and my feelings on the audio and video in specific detail, make sure to tune into geekvibesnation.com. But for now, I'm just going to give a broad overview of just this amazing set and just a high-level assessment. This is a fantastic set, and no one will probably be disappointed because Sony is one of our favorite labels for classic 4K releases. They always put in the work, and there's some fantastic restorations here and some really cool special features. And so, just to not repeat myself, every single release, ever 6 of these releases have been giving new 4K restorations of their original camera negative, except for Punch Drunk Love, which will use the interpositive as the source because according to the book, Paul Thomas Anderson and the director of photography oversaw this, and they thought they wanted it to match closer to the experience of the theatrical prints, so they used that as a color reference, and they used the interpositive. Everything else used the original camera negative, and it looks very nice. And I'll kind of break down the audio of each release. The first release is His Girl Friday, and for those who don't know, it's Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell. It's a classic Howard Hawks screwball comedy. He has several of these bangers into his name, but it's a classic tale of there's a newspaper, two newspaper reporters, Cary Grant, and they used to be lovers, but now Rosalind Russell is going to get married to a new guy, and she is going to leave the newspaper business, but in one final whirlwind night, she has to break this story that's rapidly unfolding, and there's all kinds of antics. There are some actually thrilling moments within this that you wouldn't expect from a comedy, but the way this kind of like rapid fire exchanges and Cary Grant being the most charming but also kind of a heel sometimes, but this is such a fun, breezy movie that it's just, if you get into the rhythm and you like a screwball comedy, this is one of the better ones. And I've been a fan of this ever since I owned the Criterion release. So having that release, I enjoyed the movie, but I enjoyed it even more in 4K because it looks a lot better newly restored from the original camera negative. There's a lot better textures and more firm contrast and more well-resolved grain. It's kind of just more natural looking, and it's a very beautiful looking transfer. This is the only release in this set that does not have Dolby Atmos audio, which is not uncommon for some of these Columbia Classic sets for their very earliest movies to not have Atmos, just to kind of respect the mono source. But the mono sounds fantastic. I think it sounds pretty similar to the Criterion one, but it's no reason to mess with perfection. In terms of special features, I don't think all of the Criterion release the special features are ported over. There's a commentary track. There are 2 new featurettes that are included. Some about the outfits, and then there's like another one about the rapid fire dialogue, kind of the screwball cadence that we kind of get into, and those are pretty cool. There's also a visual essay and some other assorted featurettes that are archival, and this is just a top tier release for a film that it's a lot of fun. And if you haven't really indulged in screwball comedies, if you pick up this set, this will give you a nice gateway, and then you can get into more stuff like Bringing a Baby and other titles in the genre. A lot of stuff on Warner Archive that you'll want to check out too. The second release is one of the ones I had not seen, but of course I'd heard of it, and that is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. This has one of the final performances from Spencer Tracy. Katharine Hepburn won an Oscar for this. The late Sidney Poitier, and so many good people in here. But this film is a film about racial dynamics. It is a older couple. Progressive couple, their white couple, their daughter comes home and kind of springs it on them that she is planning to marry a black man. And this is it kind of explores racial dynamics through the prism of a couple who has raised their daughter to be progressive, and then they are kind of put in the position of confronting their beliefs and seeing, once they are confronted with the possibility of something that they have been like saying throughout their life, of just like that everyone is equal and that you should not look down on anyone else. If they are ready for their daughter to face what they consider a hardship of being judged by society, especially at this time, but it remains painfully relevant to certain dynamics and how just racial inequality and systemic racism. But it's not just like white, like a demonization of white people or black people, because like his parents also have issues with it. Their maid also is one of the worst offenders of like putting negativity into this relationship, and it's just kind of the power, like as cheesy as it sounds, like the power of love to overcome certain things, but while acknowledging that the path might be a little bit difficult, and there will be whether it's worth it to try to go down this path for love in relation to how society will react. And there's some great moments in this. It's really heartfelt, and there are some dated things, not just with the racial stuff. There's like a pretty significant age gap between Sidney Poitier and his upcoming bride, and the way it is commented upon is kind of a throwaway line that kind of doesn't age super well, but despite some of its dated elements, I think its heart, especially at the time, was in the right place, and I think it's a really solid, really good movie, and it hits all the right beats, and I understand why it was nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, a couple of which it won. This comes from the once again, the original camera negative, and it looks really good. I previously had the Twilight Time, which I had not seen, but I popped it in, and monumental improvement. While it wasn't an atrocity by any means, it is just a really great improvement from that Twilight Time release. And it sounds great too. The Atmos, it's not the traditional implementation of an Atmos track, but because it's not like an action film to like an extent, but the way the room fills with music, especially this really great score, it really just kind of enshrouds you and just like envelops you, and I really love that. But you also have a 5.1 track and the original mono, so you have options. You have the original audio, or if you're wanting something to fill the room a little bit more, it is done very tastefully. And in terms of special features, you get a commentary track, you get a intro, a retrospective, several different featurettes, good assortment of special features. So this was a nice discovery on my part. I know it already has fans, and if you are a fan, this will do you well. Another one I had seen, which I actually grew to like a little bit more on this latest viewing, and that is Kramer versus Kramer. People kind of jokingly, in recent years, whenever Marriage Story came out, it really kind of buoyed up the Kramer versus Kramer comparisons with Noah Baumbach and tackling divorce proceedings in a kind of a similar way. This is Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep. At the beginning of the film, Meryl Streep just kind of packs up and leaves her husband and her son to kind of fend for themselves after kind of a long time of being kind of taken for granted and beaten down within the marriage, and just not like realizing she wants to tackle her own happiness, and then eventually realizing later in the movie that she actually does want to be involved in her child's life, and they kind of turn it into a courtroom drama. But the majority of this is Dustin Hoffman learning, which is awful, learning to be a father in a traditional sense of just actually being there for his child and not just being a provider in the financial sense. And it's what a lot of dads, even to this day, they kind of take on one aspect of parenting, and that is financial support, and not like helping with the day-to-day things, and him coming to appreciate what his wife was doing while he was at work and how that kind of unfolds. I don't like all the ways that this movie kind of demonizes the mom in certain ways. It's not egregious, but there are certain lines that I don't think have aged particularly well. But overall, I think the father-son relationship and the way that they approach the Meryl Streep character, it's fairly well handled, and I really quite like it. And it's one that like I said, I enjoyed even more on this latest watch. Once again, Atmos 5.1 and mono soundtrack. Each of these are good for their respective uses. If you want to fill the room, it sounds very nice, especially once again, not a very dynamic movie, but it has the ambiance of the New York City, like urban street life, and like just like cars just all around, and just with coming from the appropriate places. Especially there's some knocking at one point whenever there's like a Christmas party going on like outside. Like I had to like pause my system, and because I thought there was something going on outside my house, but it's just a very effective Dolby Atmos track. But the original soundtrack also sounds great. This looks fantastic. I never owned this one before, but it does look really good, even compared to the Blu-ray that is included in this release. It's a really nice, refined presentation. It's very rich and natural. This is during that 70s. Like it's usually a pretty gritty decade on the whole, and but it is handled very well. So very top tier release. All these are top tier releases. I'm just repeating myself, but this has a new commentary track and an assortment of deleted scenes that I think are mostly silent, that have never been seen before, but that's a really cool unearthing of materials that fans will want to see. There's a 49-minute making of archival featurette and a couple of other little things here and there that kind of go to lending some appreciation for this title. So once again, this is an Oscar winner of 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. So this one has been treated with respect. Heading to the second half of like the timeline for this set. This next one is Starman, which it's a great Jeff Bridges vehicle where he has to play. Karen Allen plays a widowed woman who is kind of mourning the death of her husband, who looks like Jeff Bridges, and an alien comes to Earth, takes on his appearance, and kind of kidnaps her to go on this journey to try to get to New Mexico, I believe it is, or Arizona, to get back to his ship so he can not die. And along the way, it's him learning to be human, her kind of getting through her grief and processing that through this alien who has taken on the facade of her late husband and all the emotions that conjures. I really love this film. This is the second and final film that I had not seen from this collection, and John Carpenter did such a nice job with this. It's really great special effects, some great practical effects, and just like great old-fashioned filmmaking. And what I really like about this is that there is a focus on character first, and how that kind of develops over the course of the narrative. It really hits home, and I just quite loved it. And great Atmos track. It really feels, this is a bit more active than the first 3 movies I talked about, but it really is effective. But all the other original soundtrack, all audio tracks sound really good too. Really great visual presentation. It's just top notch. In terms of special features, as I showed off in the unboxing, there is 2 discs housing all 22 episodes of the sequel series that continued the story in HD. So that's a really cool inclusion. And there's also a commentary track with, I believe it's John Carpenter and Jeff Bridges. Some deleted scenes, 18 minutes of deleted scenes I don't think had ever been seen before, and then also a what's called a time lapse, 10 minutes of time lapse footage that had also never been seen before. And then there's also a 23-minute retrospective and some other little featurettes here and there. So especially with a whole season of a series in this is stacked with special features that you will not want to miss. One of my most anticipated titles of this set, because I'm all for comfort watching, and I need just really I want my heart to be filled, and Sleepless in Seattle does that for me. I really love Sleepless in Seattle. It is a classic rom-com with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. And it is one of the only romantic comedies that I think, does a good job of building a romance between two people where they don't really meet until the very end. There's a similar kind of thing going on in this really horrible Netflix original movie called Your Place or Mine with Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. It did not work at all. You just wonder what the hell, why were they keeping these characters apart for the whole movie? There was no chemistry. Despite Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks like barely exchanging a word the entire movie, once they get to the end, you feel like they are together, and there's just so much just grand emotion of this man who has lost his wife and gets onto a radio station and kind of starts talking about it, and Meg Ryan is the woman that kind of falls for him through that and kind of starts gently stalking him, but like in a way that feels authentic to the character and not creepy as hell, because the power dynamics are not as like off center. But this is just a fantastic romantic comedy. It's one of the better Meg Ryan romantic comedies. Not quite as good as When Harry Met Sally, but it's still fantastic. And it's just a really great movie. I have been wanting to upgrade my DVD for the longest time, and this looks like a monumental upgrade from that, but also based on the Blu-ray that's included in here, it's a really nice refinement of that as well. Very rich colors, really nice Dolby Atmos sound, but also the original like stereo sound, 2.0 stereo sound. Sounds great. In terms of special features, we get one new audio commentary track from some film historians and an older commentary track, and then a new, I guess basically what you would call an intro from Meg Ryan and Gary something or other. And then the one of the archival audio commentary tracks is from Nora and Delia Ephron. Gary Foster's is the one who is with Meg Ryan to kind of provide a new introduction. There's some deleted scenes, some featurettes, all that stuff. Really glad to have this one on 4K. I need more romantic comedies on 4K, even if people don't think that it really lends like an upgrade. I think it does. And my final title is Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, which is one of the films where Adam Sandler did something a little bit more dramatic and people did not know what to do with it. I think they're a little bit more equipped now that they've seen Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems and everything, but this was Adam Sandler in a really interesting role of a man who's just like a bubbling like kettle of anger and anxiety and hesitation, and this is all just under like this placid facade, but it's just all underneath, and it's like his sisters are coming at him like poking at him and verbally assaulting him, and he's just trying to keep it all together, and it just all kind of springs forth at just like the most inopportune times. And it's a despite all this, it is also a story about him falling in love with the Emily Watson character and finding like there's a lid to every kettle type thing, and their dynamic, as strange as it may be, and there's all kinds of stuff in this that I'm not even talking about, including some great couponing and like promotions gaming that I personally love. I'm all about that. And then some extortion from a sex phone hotline. There's all kinds of stuff. There's Philip Seymour Hoffman being a dick. It's great. And it's great supporting cast, all kinds of stuff. And I really like this movie. It's very abrasive at times, but it is one I really like. It's not my absolute favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film, but it's a really good one, and I have a fondness for it, and it's one that I also, every time I watch it, it gets a little bit better for me. And Adam Sandler's just fantastic. It's one of his better performances. So Punch Drunk Love looks great in 4K. It's not a monumental upgrade from the Criterion Blu-ray, which was already kind of had been restored pretty thoroughly at the time. Not restored, remastered. But they remastered it again with the approval of Paul Thomas Anderson, or like the supervision, and this looks very nice. You just get a little bit more texture and deeper colors, and there's a Dolby Atmos track which sounds very aggressive at some points, especially with some unexpected like car crashes and other situations, but it's very natural. But if you don't want the new Atmos, the 5.1 original soundtrack is also there. In terms of special features, and nothing new, but they include most of the Criterion features. There's like 3 or 4 featurettes I was looking at that were not carried over, but you do get some deleted scenes and various featurettes, including stuff about like the score and like some of the imagery that is used. Like they kind of show some examples of that. But if you're a Paul Thomas Anderson fan, this is great. So all 6 of these films, not a stinker in the bunch. They're all classics, which is why they're in the set. And I think none of the releases drop the ball on any level. If you are a fan of any of these films, I think this is an essential set. And I think it is one you do not want to hesitate, because every single one of these sets is just one of my most prized possessions in my collection. So don't let these get sold out. Make sure you pick these up as soon as possible if you are interested at all. But definitely make sure that these are on your radar. And my hope is, since this is the 100th anniversary year and we didn't get a set last year, I'm hoping that there will be a 5th volume in the fall that kind of gives us some, like, gets us back on schedule for a yearly drop. And I cannot wait to see what is in that, because they always go all out for these sets. But I appreciate you watching watching this video. I hope it helped you. If there's something you'd like to see on a future video that I did not cover on here, please let me know. Or if there's a question about the set, I'll try to answer that in the comments. Be sure to be on the lookout for my full written review for geekvibesnation.com. If there's someone that you think would enjoy this video, make sure to share it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate you watching these. Make sure to tune into our weekly Video Addict show, where I don't go quite in as exacting detail as this set, but we have really good conversations, me and my colleague Michael Bond. But appreciate you being subscribed to the Geek Vibes Nation podcasting channel, and until next time, enjoy these movies.